Staying motivated, it can be really challenging to maintain motivation over the long term, especially in the face of setbacks and failures, particularly in business. But the idea of motivation to me is debatable. We all know what it feels like to have it. We feel great, we feel powerful, we feel like we have a direction, but then we also all know what it feels like to have lost it. We feel lost, we don't know our direction. It's disappeared, out of our control. We feel hopeless. Why don't we find a better way? So, welcome back, Alphas. It is another show. It is the Optimal Alpha Podcast. My name is Andy Naylor, CEO and founder of Naylor Body Design and host of the Optimal Alpha Podcast. And welcome back. So today is another episode in the CEO series. We're going to talk about the idea of motivation, because motivation is a driver behind pretty much everything that we do, or we think that it is a driver behind everything that we do. We need a desire to change something. Change requires a desire behind it, a reason, right? Something to push us forward. And it's that desire that helps us move towards something, or indeed away from something. It's a desire. The desire feels like motivation, but it's a desire. The desire to move towards a goal, a brighter future, pleasure, but also to move away from pain. And indeed, moving away from pain is our greatest driver. It is our greatest motivation. Why? Simply put, that's what's kept us alive for a few millennia, millions of years, whatever, right? Moving away from pain would have meant getting away from the saber-toothed tiger back in the days when that was something that we had to be concerned about. Most of the things that are happening in our world now have an evolutionary background to them, although right now we don't really understand and think about those things, particularly on a day-to-day basis, which makes sense, but they do. Moving away from pain is what literally kept us alive. It's why humans naturally are more negative than they are positive, because being more negative, looking for the negative, the problem, the pain, the worry, the concern, has kept us alive. It's not necessarily something we need to do so much in our day-to-day world now, but it's still part of us on an evolutionary level. So moving away from pain, running away from pain is one of our strongest drivers and motivations. But motivation, the word that gets bandied around so much, is so, I think, so hard to quantify. You cannot point at it. You can't point at motivation. You can't really measure it. How would you measure motivation? It's not tangible, is it? But we know what it feels like. Like, we all know when we feel motivated and compelled to do something, it feels amazing, right? Doesn't it? It feels like everything's driving in that one direction. Let me prove to you how, in a quite shocking way, right? Maybe a graphic, depends on your disposition, but a fairly shocking way, I can prove to you that I could make you the most motivated you've ever been in your life in maybe 90 to 120 seconds, depending on how fit you are. I could guarantee I could do this, pretty much guarantee it, right? How? Okay, come with me on this journey for a second. I warn you. Okay, so we're both stood in a room. There's no one else there. You don't know that I'm stood in the room with you and I'm stood behind you. Okay, you're just happily looking out of a window. Picture that. You're happily looking out of a window, completely chilled out on a Sunday. You do not know that I'm stood behind you with a great big plastic bag in my hand that I now shove over your head and zip tight. Right? Graphic. Yes, you can picture it. Yes. Now, you at that point are very concerned because you immediately know the danger that you're in. You have a plastic bag over your head and I've got it zip-locked around your neck, okay? There is no more air coming in. You are on a very, very, very short timeline out of here. Now, as shocking as this is, you are going to become incredibly motivated for one single thing very, very quickly. Your whole world will now center around getting that bag off your head and getting oxygen. And that's it. The rest of the world has just disappeared to you. Nothing else matters. Nothing else exists except for one goal, one focus, one thing. Get the damn bag off your head and stay alive. You will be the most motivated you've ever been. Fair to say. So it's a sharp example, right? But you could picture that. When I picture this, I can imagine it in a movie, right? Someone rallying around trying to get this bag off their head, fighting for their life. Nothing else matters. They are so motivated. We could say that is pure motivation to do one thing: get the bag off and get air. What would you do in that situation? Anything. You'd kill me, wouldn't you? If the only thing you could do to get that bag off your head was kill me, you'd do it, right? Of course you would. Pretty sure. You probably should do. You would do literally anything to get that bag off your head. Anything. Your motivation has just... You could have been the most unmotivated, demotivated, most lethargic, most carefree person in the 30 seconds before that bag went on your head. And your view of the world, your motivation has changed in seconds. So the point is, this thing, it's there all the time. This idea of motivation is lurking all the time. When someone says, I've lost my motivation, like, what a load of shit. I'm just not motivated to get started. That's just an excuse for, I don't really fucking care about the goal. That's what that means. If you've ever said to yourself, whatever the goal might be, and we'll come to that in a second, but if you ever said, I'm just not motivated to get started, well, the goal isn't important to you. That's the end of that conversation. That's it. Because the goal of getting the bag off your head was incredibly important to you and you became motivated immediately. The goal of losing 10 pounds, is it going to really change your life? Probably fucking not. So you don't really care. So of course you're not motivated. Of course you're not motivated. Alphas. I interrupt this show with a simple message. This show is here to benefit you and your progression to the best version of yourself. But not only just you. It's also here to benefit the people around you, your loved ones, your friends, other alphas in your vicinity. So why not do a really cool thing today? Something that I would thank you for and maybe someone else would. Share this podcast with at least one other alpha out there who you know would benefit from it. Why not share the information, share the ability for someone else to grow? I'm sure they would thank you. I 100% would absolutely thank you. This podcast only grows by our listeners, our followers doing amazing things like giving us 5-star reviews, downloading podcasts, subscribing, and then, of course, sharing it with other people. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Share it with one person, and, of course, drop us a 5-star review, download the podcast, and, of course, subscribe. And now back to the show. All right? So, but this idea of this motivation is always there. But this magical motivation is then, therefore, not reliable. You know that, right? You've heard yourself and other people say, I've lost my motivation. I have no motivation to get. Why are we relying upon this? Why? We all know it's not tangible. It's fucking fairy dust. It seems to come and go at will. Because technically, I would suggest that motivation is two hormones, or the sensation of two hormones in your body, dopamine and adrenaline. Okay? It's something connected to those two things that gives you this feeling of, I need certainly adrenaline, right? I put a bag on your head, your adrenaline goes up through the roof. Your desire to deal with that goes so far through the roof. Dopamine is also what we would say is the search for something, the search for pleasure, the go after and find pleasure hormone. Now, that's also, we could say, motivation, because you could be motivated to go and find something. Well, that's kind of dopamine. Well, dopamine and adrenaline are doing this all the time, aren't they? Like, we can control them, but are most people on the day-to-day basis? Absolutely not. No. Dopamine's all over the place. Adrenaline's not controlled. So therefore, this sensation and feeling of motivation is now untangible, and you are generally not in control of it. So bring that back to goals. So if you have goals, and I would suggest to you that you ought to, for something. So certainly as a busy business leader, you probably have, or a high-level exec in someone else's business, you probably have business and career-related goals, progression, promotion, sales targets, achievement, whatever those things might be. You should be looking to push yourself forward in that realm. Maybe you've also got personal goals. moving home, holidays, things with the family, whatever. Yeah. Maybe also physical goals, losing 50 pounds, improving your health. You should have goals in multiple areas of your life. So therefore, then you need something more reliable than motivation to go and achieve them. Think that makes sense, doesn't it? If we know that motivation is something that maybe exists, we know the feeling of it, but we know that we're not truly in control of it. But if the goal is important and we know that we need to achieve that, then we need to find something tangible that we are then therefore in control of. Something predictable, something reliable. Predictability and reliability would be a good thing here, right? So I would suggest these would be better. Habits, behaviors, lifestyle, momentum. Habits, a settled tendency or usual manner of behavior. A habit, a settled tendency or usual manner of behavior. Something we do over and over again, like brushing your teeth. Really easy. You have a habit probably of brushing your teeth at least twice a day. Oh my goodness, you must be so motivated to do that. Of course you're not. You don't even think about it. It takes nothing away from your daily motivation to go and brush your damn teeth. It's a habit. It's a settled tendency or usual manner of behavior. So then behavior, a way in which one acts or conducts themselves. A habit becomes a behavior. And guess what? A behavior, many of those behaviors become your lifestyle. How you lead your life with the foundation of habits and behaviors underneath. Okay? Add these things and time, and then you get momentum. And honestly, momentum crushes motivation every day of the week. They're not even playing the same fucking game. Momentum crushes motivation. Motivation doesn't stand a chance against habits, behaviors, lifestyle, momentum. You can point at someone doing a habit. They're doing something. It's tangible. It's a real world action. It's happening in the real world. It's not in fancy fairy dust land where motivation lives. Then all you need technically is the discipline wrapped around these things to carry them out on a regular basis. That's key. Discipline is therefore then the desire to, or the will to do something, even though you might not really want to. But if you set a goal and you put in place actual habits that then become behaviors, that then become your lifestyle, that then equal to momentum, you put those things in place, what you will probably see is they start to take you towards said goal, said brighter future, away from said pain. And if you see that, you should then foster the discipline to want to keep doing them. You're now doing real world things to reach a goal or to move away from pain, and you're not relying upon fairy dust motivation. That is today really all I wanted to go through. Simple, tangible. We don't need to make this stuff any more complicated than it needs to be, but we certainly don't want to rely upon something that we know is not reliable. If we want to achieve goals if we are going to achieve goals, if we set a goal in front of us, we must go and achieve it. Within reason, depends how big the goals are you set, but you must at least be moving towards it. So don't set your mind up, oh, I'm suddenly feeling really motivated right now. You know, the sun's coming out and summer's only a month away and I suddenly feel motivated. Yeah, did you get that last year as well? Yeah. Did it last long? No. So foster the discipline to find and create the habits and the behaviors and the lifestyle, and then allow it to be. Because here's an analogy about momentum. So imagine you're stood at, imagine it's winter, right? Okay, funny time of year for that, but imagine it's winter. You're stood at the top of a fairly steep hill and it's covered in snow, right? And you take a load of snow, right, and you roll it up into a ball, and the ball's maybe the size of, I don't know, a bowling ball, right? So yeah, and you roll it and you pack it tight, and you start to roll it down the hill, right? So it doesn't have a lot of weight, and it certainly doesn't have a lot of momentum. So it starts to sort of, kind of roll down the hill. Any little thing it comes across is going to knock it off course, right? A stick, a rock, small child trying to play, whatever. Anything is going to knock it. But the further down the hill it gets, the more snow it picks up, the bigger it gets, the faster it gets, the more momentum it has. Now, suddenly, the ball is bigger than you, right? It's now 8 foot tall and the fucking thing is rolling down the hill at 100 miles an hour. It's going to go through anything. That's momentum. That's momentum. Get yourself into that position. Become the gigantic snowball flying down the hill, knocking kids to one side and breaking through trees. You become unstoppable. But you've got to give yourself a chance to get to that point. Now, everything that we're talking about here, it doesn't matter what the goal is. If you've got a goal to start a business, I speak to people every day who are growing business, starting businesses, like selling businesses. It takes a lot to do these things. And if you're trying to do those things and be uber successful so that you can provide for yourself and your family, for goodness sake, don't rely upon motivation. Habits, behaviors, lifestyle, momentum. Right. Alphas, thank you so much. I'm glad you come along for the show. I will be back next week, as of always, right? If you've enjoyed this, please at least share this with one person who you think might benefit from some of these words. And if you've enjoyed it yourself, 5-star review, I will appreciate you. For now, over and out.